Incoming transmission from the future. Vancouver AI Community Meetup.
All right. Up next, we got, as I said, Jos Duncan-Ase from Philadelphia, who I work with through the Blue Engine Collaborative Program for the Google News Initiative. We're teaching a bunch of journalists about AI, and we're helping them with their projects and stuff. But that's how we've gotten to know each other and made a strong connection. But Jos, I really respect as an activist and as a leader in her community, media personality. Come on up here, Jos. She flew here from Philadelphia to come to this, and so we can meet. I'm so happy. Thank you, Jos. It really blessed me.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. Wow, this room looks so amazing. I'm actually going to share something with you guys that's a bit personal, and I didn't expect to share it, but I feel like this is a space where I can kind of give you what's real for me. I lost a loved one last week, and I actually have to head out tonight for a funeral tomorrow. But I have learned to navigate grief and loss by celebrating life. Thank you. So it was important for me to be here because I get to live and I get to feel and I get to connect with all of you, right? That's life. And so I want to ask all of you to take a journey with me. I want you to think about the last time you witnessed an act of love. Just think about it. Maybe just close your eyes for a moment if you feel comfortable. When was the last time you witnessed an act of love? Now, whatever that feeling is, just hold that feeling here with you for a moment. Now, I'm going to ask you to think about one more thing. When was the first time you witnessed an act of love? Maybe inhale and exhale, because some of this is taking you back to that small little child. Just think about it the first time. Now, what is that feeling? Take that feeling and just hold it with you for a moment, because I'm going to ask you to recall it at a point, okay? So in my work, I deal in love. Okay, can we get the slideshow now? Thank you. Well, we're going to talk about love and AI. If you didn't know, we were talking about AI tonight, but also love. In my work, I deal a lot with love. I tell love stories. I'm a media person. I'm usually talking about media. How many of you here are media professionals? Can I just see your hand if you work in media? Okay. And how many of you work in tech? Some kind of tech. Woo. Okay. So it feels like I'm finding my people, right? But you guys really kind of aren't my people. Like, my people are really media people. So I kind of feel like I'm cheating on my first love, but that's okay. The thing about it is, in my work, I do a lot of work for social justice, for equity, for abundance, and for joy. And a lot of that is through reporting on Black, Indigenous, and Brown communities through this lens of love. Because especially where I'm from in Philadelphia, most of the stories about Black, Brown people are usually about crime, harm, all of that. So my platform has been Love Now Media. But in 2022, when I was introduced to ChatGPT and Midjourney, which I was able to create my nails and some collard greens with, I fell in love with this, what this could do and what the potential was. And so I dove 2 feet deep into the world of AI. And I thought I was doing this fantastic thing because I could fill this gap between the tech working class and the tactile working class. So the tech working class, people like most of you who have access to the new tools that are developing, who understand what's happening. But then there are also the people who are very hands-on in their jobs, the mechanics, the people who are not interacting with technology at all, I felt like I, in all of my identities, could be a representative to fill those gaps. So I was very excited about my work in AI. And my community was not. Next slide. They felt betrayed. How could you get into this thing, this robotic thing, this awful thing? How could you use AI to create a social media calendar? How could you generate an image of a child with AI? It was as if I was doing something awful. And so what I realized early on is that in media, I realized that I had to disclose how I was using AI because people started to distrust this lovely media I was creating. And so I decided to create an AI ethics policy. And with that policy, I was able to let people know what I was doing with AI, why I was doing it, and how it supported our mission. So I think this act of transparency really helped people to feel safe. No, I am not using AI to do reporting, but I am using it to create those social media calendars. I am using it to help to write some proposals and to do things like that. But also what was most important is in this AI policy, I put that it was important for us to be using AI because Black communities were so often left behind in the AI game or in the technology game. And so when I put that out there, people began to say, oh, well, maybe we should do a policy. And so that's how I got into training people on how to do AI policies that had mission-aligned values. And so that went really well for a while until I started creating some tools and doing some fun stuff in my personal life. And then I took a negotiations class. And this class had nothing to do with AI. But in this negotiations class, I learned something new about myself. The class was very competitive. Now, yes, I'm a loving person and I like deep breathing and meditation and all of that. But when this professor said that there was like a prize for everyone who won the negotiation, something else came up in me, right? And so I started winning these negotiations, and not by a little bit. I was winning by like tens of thousands of dollars more than all of the other students in the class. And I thought I was just a great negotiator until one of the people I negotiated against came out mad and she said, I don't trust her. And I'm like, me? How could that be possible? I'm like the most trustworthy person there is, you know? And so the professor started to break down different types of negotiation personalities. There's the purist, who is transparent and ethical at all cost. There's the pragmatist, who is not necessarily trying to be malicious, but will hide their hand if they need to. And then there's the opportunist, who will lie to your face in order to win that negotiation. Now, I wasn't quite an opportunist, but I was not a purist, which I thought I was. I was actually a pragmatist. And so this was very funny because it was important for me to know this about myself personally. Now, I do business kind of as a purist, but in my personal life, I'm a pragmatist, you know? And so will I train AI on someone else's work? Not exactly, but will I train it on a summary? Nah, I just might. You know, it depends. It depends. And so these are the kinds of questions it seemed important to urge people to think about. What will you do? What will you do if faced with the opportunity to make money from someone else's work? What will you do if faced with an opportunity to create a policy that makes you have to pay into some equitable thing that you may not want to pay, but you know it's the right thing to do? What are your personal values? And so I started to encourage folks to create personal ethics policies so that you know how you're entering this AI space. We just had a talk about values, right? What are your values? They might be different from your company's values. And so it's important to know that. And so this all went really well. And we can go to the next slide. And I was telling people how important it was to really think about what they were doing, how they were interacting with AI, how they were responsible, how they should be accountable. And I realized the billion-dollar companies behind AI were not always thinking about that. I was seeing news articles about companies and legislation being passed that allowed these companies to use other people's intellectual property with no payment. I'm seeing articles day after day about the environmental harms that are being caused by AI. It's harming communities, harming land, using water, harming the environment, using up some of the natural elements of the earth. This is not something that the users should be responsible for. It actually reminded me of this incident we had in Philadelphia, and this is very awkward because I am in another country about to say something slightly bad about Philly. I love Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. But at one point, there was a thing where people were being urged to recycle, and we would receive fees if we didn't separate the recycles properly from the trash, right? So people were getting these hefty fees between like $50 and $300. And it was a big deal because it was an aggressive action. So it was a whole big thing. But the trash was being taken to a little city called Chester, southwest of Philadelphia, and being burned in an incinerator. They weren't being fined for that, but they were causing so much harm in Chester, PA. Like, how does that happen, right? So I started to think about this in the AI space because people started to see me as an AI evangelist. So I'm coaching for Google News Initiative, which is amazing. I love it. I'm speaking about the capabilities of AI and how much we can do with it. But I know that there are real harms. Real work is being stolen. Real people are like being put out of work because they don't have access to any equity, or their livelihoods have been pretty much swept up by AI. Environmental harms are happening, and there are so many exploitative practices happening. This is beyond the user's responsibility. So this is when it occurred to me that I need to not only celebrate the capabilities of AI, but I need to advocate. I need to use my social justice mind, right? To really think about what is it like to organize, and what is it like to onboard people to, next slide, to something meaningful in the AI space. So I am now gathering people and talking to people about this AI Advocacy Initiative. Thank you. So through this initiative, I want to give people information and education about AI because we need it, right? We're at the point now where you don't even have to be into AI to be using AI, right? It's literally everywhere. So I want people to understand, to have spaces to have conversations and ask questions about AI. But I also want to make collective demands that benefit humanity. Okay? I want to call out those who are causing harm and demand corrective action. And I want to uplift those that are doing good work, right? That's what this space is all about. I was watching the old talks from Vancouver AI, and there was a guy last month, I believe his name was Lionel. Is it Lionel? Yeah. Is he here? He's not here.
He called in sick like 15 minutes beforehand. He's been on mute check all week, sharing his new energy calculator for AI.
Amazing. So I wanted to call his name Lionel. What's his last name? Let's give it up for Lionel because that's amazing work. I also want to call out Antonia and the Ethos Lab. Antonia is here for sure. Amazing work teaching young people to innovate, to world build, to teach technology. We should be uplifting the people who are doing things right? But also making sure that we collectively demand things to reduce the harms of AI. Next slide, please. So these are some of the things that, we're like posting, like we give factual information. Again, I'm a media person, right? So I got to tell a story. So this is what is happening and this is what we're advocating for. This is what is happening and this is what we're advocating for. Like, let's just make it plain. But how can we get these kinds of images flooded on social media? How can we do like digital protests, digital like, direct actions? Like, how can we think about some of the tactics and strategies that we've used to demand justice in other spaces? How can we do that in the digital space? So this is what I'm working on. And next slide. So I wanted to reflect on a conversation. I was actually at dinner with Chris and Antonia last night, and Antonia asked Chris, she said, "Why do you do the work you do?" And Chris said, "I'm actually trying to build a future I want to live in." Was that it? And I thought that was like incredible, right? So I feel like if we think about love in the code, remember that love feeling you guys held on to? What does that feel like? Just take a moment. What does it feel like to put love in the code? What does it feel like to put love in the policies? Not to just write something random in ChatGPT and throw it on your website, but what does it feel like to have people feel that you are really connected to them, that you really care about their journey here, right? Like, we get to live together. Love in the land. We get to share physical space. What does that feel like to put that wherever we go? And love in the culture. This is a loving culture. Chris, you got something good going on here. Y'all are amazing. So with that, those are the things that I am advocating for, because one day AI will be smarter than us. And when that time comes, I want it to love us enough to save us. And that's my talk.
Don't run away. I'm gonna give you this one first. Wow, Jos, that's amazing. Sometimes I wonder like how our roads kind of like led exactly here. And then when you talk right now, please come out here into the light.
I'm sweating profusely. It's actually quite embarrassing.
You can hide over there.
No, it's okay.
But when you talk, I realize it's because like we're values and heart align. And you saw the bat signal we were putting out here, Lionel and us and this whole community, and we connected for real. And thank you for bringing that message here. I mean, when I describe our community to other people in the wide world, I'm like, we're stoked about all these opportunities and possibilities, and we have concerns and questions over here, and we're walking forward, both those things in our hands at the same time. And that's what you're talking about. You're like, yeah, it unlocks all this stuff for me, but also I demand it to be held to account in these ways. And that's amazing. That's like such a good way of talking about how I feel too. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, let's get some question and answers going. Who wants to talk to Jos? Any feedback? All right, there we go. Kush. Uh-oh. Usually Kush asks tough questions at the end, but tonight I guess we're gonna be asking tough questions at the beginning.
So I just do what I want, but Chris always frames it like it's very intentional. Like, there are not that many brain cells in this body. I so appreciated your talk. I appreciate the work you're doing, and especially the work around justice and seeing things through a lens of what's fair and what's right. So that's all good, and I could just go on about all the beautiful things that you said. But my question, and sort of one thing that I wanted to push back against, is in the 2 slides that you talked about, the diagram, the graphics. One thing that I immediately noticed is like a sort of, like when you have a filter in your brain, you're looking up at a thing, it just kind of sparks out to you. Is you had copyright issues for this and that, and you mentioned stable diffusion, right? And this has been going on for 2 years, and to me, it immediately is like a slight against me and others, because this has been the framing that has been used by the industry, Midjourney, by DALL-E, right? Tools that are commercial, proprietary, and are actually stealing, quote unquote, stealing artists' work, and they will always target stable diffusion in that kind of a frame. But stable diffusion is the open source one. It's the alternative, the first one actually on the scene that had the balls, Imad Mustaq in UK, to publish it and whatever happens. So that is the one that actually allowed Chris and everyone else around here to create their own artworks on top of the labor of all the other artists, while not pretending like they drew it. Like they were happy to admit it's AI. Not that many AI artists actually don't want to admit it's AI. They're happy to have that thing. So my question is like, first of all, can we always make sure that our ire is against the ones that are actually profiting off of this? Stable diffusion doesn't make any money, right? It's open source, the open internet, the open source. And also, how do we truly do the compensation for artists and all of this? Because I think if you have New York Times suing OpenAI, and we set a precedence that training means you compensate the trainers. So you compensate the data from the trainers. That means only the people who have the kind of money to pay those entities will ever be the ones to be able to train models, and they will never open source shit. So we will continue to live in a world where proprietary now becomes the standard, and open source will completely die, because there will never be any incentive to open source a model if you have to pay $1 trillion to all the people involved. And I think open internet, open knowledge, I don't believe in copyright, patents, and trademarks. So there's a whole different thing. So what do you say? Yeah, what do you think about that?
So my answer to that is actually that we need spaces like this to have these kinds of conversations, right? I don't come to you as someone who knows everything that you do about tech. Remember, I'm the media person. But you and I now have a connection where I can go and adjust my slide so that it more accurately represents what we should be advocating for. And I think we also could include, say, a lawyer in our conversation. Any lawyers in the house? And so this is where we can start to co-design what this advocacy looks like. And so that would be my answer. I think there's always room to learn, to grow, to incorporate feedback, right? And so thank you for your feedback.
Yeah. And I always reserve the right to go editorial on this stuff a little bit too, And the first question was like, why you got to punch down on open source software like Stable Diffusion when you could punch up on all these people who are profiting? And that's valid. And I think that's great. Like that makes a lot of sense. The other thing you said was, how do you do the information provenance that allows you to pay creators on and man, that one's fucked. I think that ship has sailed. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure, bro. It's a really good question.
But there are things like people are putting like journalism on the blockchain. Like there has to be a way to put, like IPs on the blockchain.
Where's Melinda?
So
don't pump your company, but just talk about art on blockchain.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a recovering journalist, ex-BBC, London Times, ABC News, a lot, but also a technologist working in AI. I've been working in AI since 2011. One of the things that I've come to the conclusion in my current company is the blockchain actually has a tremendous capability when combined with AI, right? To be able to, just to what Chris said, about the provenance of who owns what for attribution. Right now, anybody, say in the podcast, but anyone could take a whole collection of podcasts and just create a digest of those, and those podcasters would be left behind. But what if all of that information was tokenized, right? So you know exactly who to attribute, who created what, and you have an immutable record of it, and then that opens up the opportunity to monetize. So that's the kind of thing that I'm working on, and
I would love to work with you. I mean, this is this and this.
Connection between, I never company's
Yeah.
technology pretty well, and there's a really strong connection between the stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for what you're doing. I mean, I totally agree. We all need AI ethics, and self-awareness and consciousness about it, and being able to infuse it with the right intentions. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I got at least one more.
Hi, my name's Tara Robertson. I love
Tara.
Hi.
I met Tara at the reception. She's introducing herself.
I think values are super important, and I heard that that's true for you too. Can you tell us a couple of your values and give us some examples of how that shows up in the work that you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Actually, we've been reporting on 4 beats, and those are social justice, wellness, abundance, and joy. And our reporting framework is about connections to community, to lineage, to land, and to the future. So it's very Afro-Indigenous, the framework, our reporting framework. And so those are some of my values. I mean, those are some of my community's values. And we were able to identify a framework to help us make sure that all the stories we tell are not just about these things that are happening in communities to people, but we want them to feel like they are also connected. When you're reading a Love Now Media story, you can see those connections to community, to a lineage, to a space or place or like a land. And then there's some outlook for the future. And so that's how it shows up in my work.
Thanks, Jos. Nick, I'm sorry. I got one more over here, and then we probably got to change channels. Now's a quick chance to connect on your phones with Love Now Media. You might just want to check it out before she goes away. Because she's about to go poof. She has to leave, as she said, because of that family situation. So she's gonna have to leave in a minute. Yeah. So let's connect with her. We got one more question. I also wanted to say, if you make it to her website, which you should, click on the About section, and then read the 2/3 of the way down. There is her AI policy.
No, that's the wrong. This is the personal website, but you can go to Love Now Media.
Go to Love Now Media, click on About, go 3 paragraphs down. It's her AI policy. It's the best fucking AI policy I've ever read in my life. It changed me profoundly. I've been teaching it every single time I get a chance to since I read it, and maybe I've taught it in some of your guys' companies. Yeah, you should remix it however you like. It's profound and progressive and awesome, and I love it. Thank you, Jos, for sharing that with us.
Thank
All right,
you so much.
Last question here.
Hi, Jos. My name is Maurice Earl, and I think, again, what you said, it really connected with me on many ways, not only, and it's not really a question I have, but I just want to say you're doing some good stuff here. I'm feeling inspired here because I'm not only within the AI side, I'm also within the Black community side, and a lot of these things can be applied towards like nonprofits and the connection of not only the community, but also with the journalism side, because I'm actually in talks with Global BC and such as well. And like even making it interesting of bringing people from different communities to the journalism side, which is, I think it's getting a little bit of a hit, but I think stuff like this is what's going to, really bring people into it. So I just appreciate you. I know you have to go, but I'm going to talk to Antonio because I'm actually a board member, and I wanted to. I'm going to get, yeah. I'm everywhere and nowhere, but I do want to get your information. I do want to get in contact with you, very much so.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
I met Maurice at Surrey AI, one of our subgroup things that sprung up out in the suburbs, and that's too cool. I didn't know you all were connected. Jos, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Jos Duncan-Ase.